We're talking to Alexis Kerr. She's the vice president of the Mahogany brand at Hallmark and a certified C-Suite Sista. We're talking about what it takes to break out of that middle management range and finally secure the key to the executive suite. And joining us at the table is Simmons. She's a very successful engineer with a rather impressive resume who says she has stood at the threshold of the C-Suite for years now, more times than she can count, still trying to pierce and make her way to that next level. So we're going to talk about how we do that with Alexis. Welcome, Kenya.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I have been in engineering, 20 years now? It's about 20 years. I started off as electrical engineer and computer science, and then I gradually went into application engineering and also a certified Six Sigma Master Black Belt. So I've always done process engineering, manufacturing engineering, and not only just electrical engineering, but as well as industrial, civil, chemical. So I have a vast amount of experience in engineering.
In other words, she's brilliant, okay? Brilliant. And I think people hear engineer and don't necessarily think of the C-suites, right? We're thinking that you're sort of the mechanics of engineering. But there are corporate decisions that have to be made in these levels as well.
Absolutely. I say that every company needs an engineer. I don't care if you're in the industry of healthcare or if you're at Wendy's or McDonald's. They all need engineers because
there's some
process improvement.
the
process improvement. And then the days that you are in the emergency room, don't you need to know how long you're going to be in the emergency room? And that's from the beginning to the end of that process. That's the engineer designing that.
Absolutely.
As soon as you turn your car on in the morning, that's the engineer.
That was an engineer who made it happen.
So I love that. Yeah.
So let's talk about where you are in this space in mid-level management. You've been hovering now for about 3 years in that space, right?
That's right.
But can't break through. What do you think it is?
I actually think it's the opportunity. There's not enough opportunities for African American, period. And then even less opportunities for African American women. That's what it is. I mean, I consider the smartest individuals, but yet we don't get those opportunities to be in the C-suite or leadership roles of that.
Alexis, your response. Your thoughts on that.
A couple of things. First of all, your background is absolutely amazing. Kenya, when I think about the incredible work, when I read your bio, just phenomenal. I think a couple of things are important. The first one is really making sure you understand the company's culture. And that's really big because it's about, what's important to them and how do you fit into that culture to articulate the things that are important as you think about moving up in leadership. So I think that piece is important. I think opportunities are important as well. But when I hear you say opportunities, I'm thinking more of how do you network with the right people at the company to go across a number of different staff functional areas, because moving up, the bigger piece is not your leader and his or her executive director. It is across the organization. When people hear your name, do they know you? Have you spoken up in meetings? Those type of things. So I think it's, again, small things that we may take for granted. But when I think about moving up in the C-suites and those opportunities, it really begins to be your work. Everybody's doing a great and amazing work in your resume, your background, all of that. Then it becomes like how many people really know the incredible work that you're doing.
Right, because that's part of the issue, right, is making sure that people know, okay, she's really good at XYZ, PD and Q, but how do you get people to know what else you can do at a more executive space? And so much of that is collaboration, but sometimes competition can get in the way. I understand you had a situation where you were moving on up.
Absolutely.
And undermined.
Absolutely. And there's an example of, I remember I was in a business executive type role, and the next step for me was to be an executive. However, I had one of my colleagues who was jealous and envious of it. Instead of us working together, instead she felt as if she wanted to backstab me, like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and get this particular role. That's not the case. There's enough space for all of us. And that was the situation, the problem that I encountered. Sometimes it's people that look like us that will backstab us. So we have to be mindful of the fact that it's not about competition. We all can work together.
Right.
And that happened to me into that particular space. So it also led me to leave
And Alexis, tell me, how do we manage when you find that you're in a setting where you're trying to make sure that your reputation, your credibility, all of these things are intact, but sometimes there are outside forces that aren't, that are trying to stand in your way? How do you manage that without things getting messy?
Yeah, I think it's, for me, I've found from a broader perspective, it's not one person that changes your business trajectory at a job. It may be one loud voice, but essentially it's a number of people who start to begin and believe that. And so I go back to, again, networking and really building a full network across the enterprise, because when you start to do that, you'll have people speak up and say, well, I didn't have that experience with her.
Right.
I worked with her on project A, B, C, and D, and I didn't have that experience. But again, if you only sort of have tunnel vision, your leader, your leader's leader, and a smaller group of people who know you, who worked with you, who you've networked with, I think that tends to limit itself. And ERGs are amazing. Employee resource groups are amazing ways that I've gotten to meet a broader group of executives and leaders so that I could test some of my skills when I came from an engineering and IT background, but wanted to move into the softer side of the business. Marketing,
I like how you put that, the softer side.
And so in doing that, the ERG helped me get that exposure and opportunities. And that's actually how I ended up getting tapped at General Motors to do another exceptional stretch assignment. It was through that networking. And so I can't say enough about that and the broader group of people who know your experiences.
And who can speak to your expertise. All right, stand by. When we return, the ideas are one thing, but actions, those are another. Alexis is going to share some other strategies that will help you leave the break room and head straight to the boardroom. That's next.